Okay, the hour of 7:32 is upon us now, so I would like to call to order tonight's business meeting for Tuesday, February 16th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Member Carter.
Here.
Member Demmett.
Here.
Member Patton.
Here.
Member Pulaski.
Here.
Member Fisher is here. Vice President Exum.
Here.
And President Hall.
I'd like to ask if there are any additions, corrections, or modifications for tonight's agenda.
No.
Seeing none, okay. Citizen statements. No citizen statements for tonight. All righty. Next up, 5.0 on the agenda is a call for executive session, which we will be having after tonight's current meeting. And that is for the purpose of discussing litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular district has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the district finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the closed meeting minutes. And the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. So having said that, that will take place immediately after tonight's public meeting. Next up, we just need an approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Member Carter.
I think you muted yourself, Brenda. Oh.
Yeah, we can't hear you. You can give us a thumbs up in the.
Okay. Brenda gave us a thumbs up. So next up.
Okay, because I can't see everybody at once.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Brenda gave us a thumbs up.
Okay.
Can't hear
Member
her.
Demmett
Yes.
and Member Patton.
Yes.
Member Pulaski.
Yes.
Member Fisher votes yes. Vice President Exum.
Yes.
And President Hall.
Yes, agenda is approved. I do not believe we have any commendations or recognitions for tonight, do we?
No.
Nope. Okay, so moving on, public hearing, there is none tonight, and I don't think we have any communications either. No?
Nope.
Okay, then we will move on to 10.0 with our first of our administrative reports. 10.1, we're going to be talking about Solagratia. I never know if I'm pronouncing that right. Is it Solagratia Farm? And the farm to school planning process. So we're lucky enough to have Tracy Barkley, who's the director, and Valerie Corris, the community nutrition program coordinator, to present the planning process for this collaboration. I'll let you both take it away. Welcome.
Well, I think Carol's going to give a little bit of
Oh,
background.
Carol's going to start.
She just
Sorry.
did. So she just
did.
introduced, but I will
Sorry.
say that Tracy and Valerie have both been very instrumental meeting with the district early on in this process, and applying for the grant and receiving the grant. And now we have money to actually start planning and doing all these surveys. So they've been really working hard. And we have a group of steering committee that she'll talk about a little later in the presentation, that a lot of input that we're getting district and community wide. So we're hoping this takes off and we get some good information to put some things in place in the fall. So I'll turn it over to Tracy. Thanks for being here.
Oh, our pleasure. Thank you very much for allowing us to be part of your meeting tonight. Valerie's actually going to kick it off and start with the slides. And I think just so we don't have any distractions, both of us are going to choose to turn our video off while we're presenting, and then we'll come back on for questions afterwards, if that's all right.
All right, thank you, Tracy. So good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you for having us and allowing us this valuable time to speak at tonight's meeting. I just want to briefly introduce myself and the Farm to School coordinating team that's facilitating this project within the community. My name is Valerie Corris. I'm the Community Nutrition Program Coordinator at Champaign-Urbana Public Health District. My team also includes my colleague Jennifer Lawton, WIC nutritionist and Special Projects Coordinator at CUPHD, as well as the director of Solagratia, Tracy, who you just saw and will also be speaking a little bit later, and Fiona Monroe, the outreach and education coordinator at Solagratia Farm. Next slide. All right. So let's start by looking at where this idea of bringing a comprehensive farm to school program to Champaign-Urbana originated. First, we recognized the need on the local level, which is the lack of access to healthy, nutritious food. We know that food insecurity contributes to what's known as the hunger obesity paradox, where someone might be consuming too much food or too many calories, but not consuming the right types of foods, and therefore is hungry or starving for the proper nutrients to grow and thrive. When we look at our community on the county level, we see that the 2020 projected child food insecurity rate for Champaign County is 19.4%, which is up from 12.8% in 2018, and that's reported by Feeding America's Map the Meal Gap. And of course, we can assume that COVID-19 affected food insecurity rates in a negative way. We also know that children consume half of their daily calories at school, and for many of them, that means the meals and snacks provided by the school. And within Urbana School District, more than half of students qualify for free and reduced price lunch, and the district as a whole has students experiencing food insecurity at such high rates that all of the schools in the district qualify for free breakfast and lunch for all students. Next slide. So we view farm to school programs as a school-based solution to the rising child food insecurity rates. Farm to school programs consist of three main components, one being school gardens, two, food and nutrition education in the classroom, and three, bringing locally grown foods into the school cafeteria. It's important to keep in mind that locally grown can have different definitions as well as varying parameters for different food products. And according to the USDA Office of Community Food Systems, school districts that participate in farm to school programs experience increased participation in their school meal programs and reductions in plate waste, which is the amount of food left on a plate after a student has finished eating. Districts also report decreased meal program costs and improved parent and community support. Next slide. There are multiple stakeholders that stand to benefit from a comprehensive farm to school program in Urbana School District. First and foremost, the students. Students benefit by having exposure to new foods and new methods of hands-on learning, as well as learn about career opportunities in food and agriculture. Teachers also benefit from farm to school programs, as there are many already developed farm to school curriculums out there that help meet national curriculum standards and also provide experiential learning opportunities that traditional classroom lessons often lack. We also know that our local farmers will benefit, as procuring local foods for use in schools can open new markets for them and enhance opportunities for outreach. And finally, our whole community benefits from the economic growth opportunities of keeping food sales local. Next slide. There are many different ways to incorporate farm to school activities into each and every school in Urbana School District. One simple way to get involved is to participate in the Harvest of the Month program, either as a school or as a school garden committee. The Illinois Harvest of the Month program promotes an in-season, locally grown food item every month, and registered sites receive a seasonal calendar of suggestions for what to feature, as well as classroom and cafeteria activities, curriculums, recipes, a monthly newsletter, and it's all free. So it's a great one to get involved in. Next slide. Another way to incorporate farm to school concepts into existing curriculum is by using locally grown food and cooking classes, and by providing or engaging in agricultural education opportunities in the classroom. Next slide. Another goal for a comprehensive farm to school plan could include installing or expanding growing spaces across the district and bringing classrooms into the garden for experiential learning opportunities that extend beyond agriculture. In the garden, students can make predictions and conduct experiments during science, plot out the dimensions of the garden in math, or learn about the history and politics of food access in social studies, for example. Next slide. We could also work to increase the number of students taking field trips to farms or farmers visiting classrooms so students can meet the good people growing their food and explore if they might also like to be the future farmers of America. Next slide. Finally, a farm to school program could work to incorporate locally grown foods into school meals, whether it be school garden greens on a salad bar or a monthly lunch entree that features local foods. Think even beyond fruits and vegetables. Did you know that grains such as wheat and oats can be grown locally? What about local proteins such as beans? The opportunities are endless, but we have to start somewhere. Next slide. And that is why I will turn it over to Tracy Barkley, Director of Solagratia Farm, to describe in more detail how this farm to school project is being developed.
Great, thank you, Valerie. I'd like to start out by acknowledging that first, many folks in our community have been dreaming about a farm to school program over many years. And there have been many special folks working on different pieces of a farm to school program already. In Urbana, we have edible growing spaces established at Leal, Thomas Paine, King, and at the high school. We have a garden club at the middle school and Future Farmers of America Club at the high school. Every year, growers and farmers from our community gather at Thomas Paine for Garden Night, which is an evening of sampling new fresh foods, fun games and activities, and growing demonstrations. And I even hear there'll be an urban agriculture class taught at the high school next year. We have farms in our community like Fowler Farm in Champaign and Solagratia Farm in Urbana open for tours. Fowler Farm last year partnered with the culinary classes at UHS for the Chop Challenge. And our Champaign County Farm Bureau employs an Ag in the Classroom educator who has visited many classrooms in our district. Valerie and I have partnered professionally in many ways over the years and have often talked about how we'd like to, in our respective roles, advance farm to school offerings in our community towards a more coordinated and comprehensive program. This is something we're both passionate about, both professionally due to the missions of the Public Health District and Solagratia Farm, and personally as we both have children in the district. Next slide, please. So just a few months before COVID struck our community, we applied for a 12-month planning grant from the USDA. Little did we know what was ahead of us. This past summer, we were awarded funds to lead a process to assess interest and evaluate readiness for a farm to school program in our community, including both USD 116 and Champaign's Unit 4. Given the constraints of COVID, as well as a significantly greater need in Urbana, as evidenced by the fact that every school in Urbana has between 57 and 88% of the students qualifying for free reduced lunch, we've opted to work with the Urbana School District first, with Unit 4 to follow. This planning grant supports activities within the district, such as surveys and focus groups, workshops and trainings, piloting some farm to school activities such as taste tests and cooking demos, though I'm not really sure we're going to get to that with COVID constraints right now, and ultimately will result in the development and release of a farm to school action plan. Next slide, please. So we started at the end of last summer. We completed a baseline assessment using surveys of current farm to school activities within the district. And I'll share those findings with you in a second. We've built a team, our steering committee, to work on this planning process together. We've been working to generate interest in the farm to school program with presentations such as this one to various outlets in our community. We released a press release a couple weeks ago and had some good coverage both on TV and in print. We launched our website and social media pages last week, and right now we're really in the process of surveying our stakeholders using all of those communication outlets. We also have applied for funds also from USDA for specific project implementation through a turnkey grant. What we applied for is funds to help get edible growing spaces at the 4 Urbana schools that don't currently have any greenhouses or gardens in place. And then our plan is, once the action plan is complete, to apply for an implementation grant in 2022. So this next spring, we'll really be working with the results of the surveys and writing the farm to school action plan, which is the ultimate end piece that will sum up our planning process and then inform the implementation process moving forward. Next, please. So as noted previously, Urbana schools do have some farm to school components already, including grow spaces at 4 of 8 schools, some ag education in the classroom, some taste testing and cooking demos with local foods, as well as some limited field trips to area farms. Urbana School District contracts with Arbor Food Management, who reported no current procurement of local foods. And across the board, we saw both interest and uncertainty about incorporating farm to school activities in the future, and acknowledgement of barriers, including limitation of time, funds, staff, difficulties with the procurement process, and a perception of limited district support. Next slide, please. So we have convened what I think is a star-studded cast of champions for this effort on our steering committee, representing several stakeholder groups, including school and food service administrators, teachers, parents, students, producers, distributors, processors, food service personnel, and community members. We are meeting quarterly and charged with 1, establishing our vision, goals, and strategies, 2, generating enthusiasm and encouragement in our respective stakeholder groups and beyond, and 3, informing the ultimate action plan. Please note, we're still looking for additional parents and students from each of the Urbana schools to join and participate in our steering committee, and we urge you to reach out to us at cufarmtoschool@gmail.com or through Facebook, Instagram, which I'm going to get to in just a second. Next, please. So a significant piece of this process is to reach out to as many of our school's community members as possible and listen to folks' hopes and dreams for a farm to school program and incorporate those of greatest interest and feasibility into the plan to be implemented. We just launched our social media campaign and went live with our website where the surveys can be completed. I'd like to ask each of you, as part of this meeting and listening through UPTV, to jot down a note to yourself to 1, like us on Facebook, 2, follow us on Instagram, and please visit our website listed here. On the website, you'll be able to link to our surveys. So in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see those green boxes. Those are each links to the various surveys that we've put together. As an additional incentive, we're raffling off gift baskets weekly, either garden or cooking themed. So your name will be entered when you enter the survey. One additional note is that each of these surveys is currently being translated into Spanish and French and will be available on the website and through targeted translated social media posts soon. Next slide, please. As you can see, there are many different sectors within our community that can contribute to and benefit from a farm to school program. As Valerie noted earlier, a program like this can positively impact students and their families, teachers, our local producers, and more, and will take active participation from folks in many spheres. Next, please. At the end of our planning process, we'll have an action plan for a coordinated, comprehensive farm to school program that will guide future investments and projects. We'll also have an engaged network of leaders to help implement and sustain farm to school components. It'll be very interesting to see what folks want and what the district and various schools are ready for. We feel very fortunate to have the district's interest and support to date, and it's already been a lot of fun to hear the enthusiasm from students, parents, and teachers writing in. Next slide. Thank you very much for inviting Valerie and I to speak to you tonight. At this time, we'd like to entertain any questions or comments you might have. Thank you.
Personally, would like to just say thank you. I can tell you from my own experience as a parent that my daughter is at the high school and decided this year that she was going to take an ag class with Dan Dewing. And our family, who my generation has never gardened, actually had a garden this year. It was the first time at our home that my daughter and I actually really had a great time going out and planting, and we probably overplanted. We had everything from tomatoes to peppers to various herbs and greens and cabbage and lettuce, but it was really fun, and it was a great bonding experience for us. There's nothing like going from the garden to the plate. So she was really able to kind of experienced some of the things I experienced with my grandparents who were big gardeners, who we just didn't really take on that skill for whatever reason. We get busy with our lives, but COVID slowed us down, and we had such a good time that we've kind of plotted out what we're doing for next year, and looking at we've got some indoor lamps for starting the growing in our home. My daughter joined the FFA this year, which is just, you know, our African American kids, I'll just tell you, it's not common for our families in this generation to garden and to do these things and to have that interest. And while her interest really is a little more on the animal side, even from the aspect of the animal side, she is understanding how it all is kind of a circle, and how the animals and their manure and things like that help with the actual growth of the plant, and the growth of the plant then feeds us. And so it's just been a really great experience for her. I know if she's doing it, I'm sure Dan and some of the teachers in the other schools have probably touched some other children there. And it's great, healthy eating. There were times where she would say, you know, I never knew a tomato could taste so good. You know, just cutting up a tomato and eating it. It's just something that she really didn't experience before as a snack. And so to have that experience is just, it's a wonderful thing. And I just can't thank you guys and all of the other partners and teachers and those that really go out of their way enough to give our kids this experience. And so I'm very supportive, and you know, you let us know what your needs are, and we certainly will do our best, because we, at least I can't speak for everybody, understand the importance of us looking at the health aspect of our children. And we know that healthy eating is expensive, but when you can learn how to do the growing on your own, it makes all the difference in that expense. So thank you. I won't take any more time.
Tracy, I think this is great. Is everybody able to hear me now? Okay. I know when my children were in school, the FFA program was very well ran and very good. A lot of those students went on to do a lot in the ag fields, and it just really helped to build their self-confidence. I think it's great that you've partnered with so many people in the community to get everybody on board with this. I think it's a great asset for our school to be a part of this. So thank you very much, you and Valerie and your team, for everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
Tracy, I know that Solagratia has grown by leaps and bounds. You guys have acres and acres and acres in 2 or 3 different places now, I think, that you're taking care of. And so in partnership with this, in order to, I assume that over long term, the hope is to scale this up a little bit so that the local produce can be a meaningful part of our food program. So is part of the planning going to be bringing the expertise that Solagratia has, and maybe even a little bit of your ability to manage volunteers to help the schools take on something other than just, I know we may have to start with a 4 by 6 foot garden plot, but I would hope we would get to the size where we have enough produce to where it makes a meaningful impact on our lunch programs.
So the thing about a farm to school program is it can involve so many different components, and it can be different per school. And we're definitely looking district wide, but what might come out of the stakeholder surveys is that the elementary schools might be interested in more gardens on site. It might be that the middle school is more interested in farm, tours of farms, more ag education in the classroom. It might be that the high school really wants to take on purchasing more food for meals. And that's kind of what we're assessing right now, is at what age groups are interested in what activities, where is there support from both administrators and from teachers. And it might not look like a one size fits all program across the district. So we'll see what what folks are interested in. That's why I said it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this. Solagratia, we're a not-for-profit farm, and our mission is to help address food insecurity in our community. And we know by the numbers that there are a lot of kids in need that need good food at the school and to establish healthy eating habits right from the beginning. So that's why we're starting this process and in partnership with public health. And we really see ourselves as a convener and a producer that hopefully, will be able to help share gardening skills and inspiration, as well as sell some of our produce into the school district. But there are a lot of local farms in this area, and local can mean, 6 miles or 60 miles. So the hope is that we'll kind of cut through with some of the red tape and find out how to get other growers to get their products into the school, get some of the expertise, whether it's farm visits or helping lead a seed starting session in a classroom. There's a lot of different ways that we can, I think, thread together different community partners. So I do want to make it clear that this is not specifically for SOLA to find a new market within the school district. We care very much about the education components, the empowering kids to grow their own food, learning more about how to get those healthy eating behaviors started. We're just, as a not-for-profit farm, in the position to be able to take some time to figure this out. And I know, we've been interested for a while and haven't done anything because it is a lot of work to figure out exactly. It's you all know, it's complicated. And we expect that the procurement piece, actually getting the food into the cafeteria in any sort of, high volume way, might not ever happen, and it could take years. So when we say, starting with like a harvest of the month activity, that's really the level that we should be, I think, that we're going to be able to start at. That's something that where we can highlight kind of what grows seasonally. We can highlight different producers, those are growing fruits, those are growing vegetables, maybe some proteins. And I think that's the level that we could start working with Arbor Food Management as well.
Yeah, and I know we'll have to have a differentiated approach because our two more urban campuses, for lack of a better word, Leal and King, have very little space for any kind of outdoor laboratories. In that most of Leal is paved and or graveled, and King just occupies almost its entire space and relies on the park district for outdoor space. But many of our other campuses have a lot of grass that just looks pretty and gets mowed that could be a lot more used a lot more effectively. I want to throw something out there too that might not be part of the thinking is that doing more gardening and doing more than just growing grass also helps us from a climate change viewpoint in terms
Absolutely.
of carbon capture, and so being able to even bring that in. Our students, we don't have too many. We have some students whose parents farm, but most of our students' parents don't farm, and so the whole idea of the role that agriculture and proper use of our landscape can play in climate change might be something that really catches the imagination, at least, gets the mind started, and then goes into the other aspects of what we're looking at in terms of nutrition and things like that. So I just see a blending of modern interests here that could be quite productive.
Yeah, thanks
I
for
agree.
pointing that out. I don't think it's something that we're really highlighting as a benefit, but it definitely is.
Every tree you plant really goes a long ways towards a lot of carbon capture. And I know you're not wanting to turn our grounds into forests, but same thing happens when plants aspirate and take in the carbon dioxide and put it in the ground or into the plant.
John, you might want to fill out a survey with some ideas of fruit trees, berry bushes.
Get a big blueberry patch and I'll be there to help you harvest it.
Really appreciate the way you're going about this, doing broad surveys, and the notion that each of our campus buildings isn't a one-size-fit-all approach is really the right way to go. I have a lot of respect for how you're going about this with your process, and you're thinking long term. I want to make sure though that you're aware that we're undergoing renovations of our Thomas Paine campus. We're looking at a broad land use plan for our high school, middle school campus. Down the road, the same thing will happen at Wiley. So I just want to make sure you're plugged in with our planning processes with regards to making sure we've got space allocated for these needs.
So this has come up recently, and Tom Majors is on our steering committee, principal of Thomas Paine. And so it has come up that the existing garden that's in the courtyard right now probably will no longer be. And our hope is that as that plan is developed, that a garden site is established as well as a water line and the things that would, are going to be needed to take care of it. Randy, I'm going to call you up because Randy's also on our steering committee.
Tracy, I want to reassure you that replacement of that garden at Thomas Paine is already a critical piece of our thinking.
That's great.
And to put it in a better place than inside the courtyard where it can be watered and can be accessed without having to go through lock and key, through the building.
And Paul, the other thing that I want to, I just want to let everybody know about is that we are thinking long-term about this. I mean, one of the hard things about farm to school is the growing season doesn't necessarily line up with the school year. And it also, there's a lot of maintenance of gardens. So we are in every step of the action plan. Sustainability is a key part of that, that we're working on all 12 months of this planning process. And then I think the more that we tie it into clubs, volunteer opportunities, curriculum, the more that it's enmeshed district-wide, the more it's going to be able to be cared for, and we aren't going to see, an investment 1 year and 3 years later, just a patch of weeds. We don't want that. And I know, we've seen that in other farm to school programs, but I think that's why Valerie and I really jumped at the chance to work with USDA, because they have a nationwide farm to school program. And when we're working with this larger network, we're learning some of the pitfalls of, what not to do, how to be really efficient and strategic with the planning process. And I think that's, there are components already in place. There are components that certainly could be put in place without a grant, but by working through the planning process, it makes sure that we're being really metered about it, that it's informed by the community, and that we're really planning for something long-term and not just a flash in the pan good idea.
And Tracy, I want to add to it, and it can't be person specific, right? Like, I was at a King and in a building where we had all these landscape projects and butterfly bushes, and there were a lot of hands-on kind of growing ideas and just projects and plots of land that we, like John said, we took over whatever little green spaces we could. But then when the people who were most vested in those kind of left the building or moved on to other places, it tends to, like you said, become a weed patch or so I think that is a piece. I know Randy can chime in too, because that's happened in other buildings. I'm just using King for an example, because I saw it happen firsthand. But I think it needs to be something that is just a culture of the building, and it isn't driven by a specific person or a specific committee or a PTA member who's really invested in the project. it needs to just become a part of the culture of that building. So when people move and transfer or go in other directions, that the work still happens. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, we've really struggled with the having one person being able to stay with the gardens and take care of the gardens. We had a really nice garden going at Yankee Ridge a few years ago, and then that person left, and it just ended up being a weed patch, and we can't take care of it. The project going on at the high school, middle school in a few years, maybe 5 to 6 years, maybe, I don't know what it'll take to get there. They have a nice garden across the street from the high school, across from door 1. It could be bigger. They're lacking water. I think the high school is working on a grant currently to get water in that area. And I think we're just gonna go ahead and let them do it. And then, and whenever they do the project at the high school, we'll just have to disconnect it again and start over. But we can maybe figure that into the next, one of the phases of that project over there to be able to have the garden watered. That's the biggest problem they have right now.
That's great to hear. We met with Dan Doing and Amanda Perez-Rosser and the new culinary arts teacher this last week about the gardens, and to see what Zola can do to support those gardens getting up and running this year. And those were some of the issues of in the short term and the long term, water, and then also what the ultimate plan is for those properties and how much do we want to invest right now. So that's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, Mr. Devitt might have more of an idea what the timeline would be for that, or Dr. Evie Tatum, but and where the garden is, it's it's really shady. I don't know if it's the best location, but the beds that we have over there can be easily moved. So whatever you guys need, just let us know and we'll try to help.
And the most
That's
fertile
great.
soil, the most fertile soil on the high school campus is probably the space that's closer to Washington Street. It's the least disturbed. It hasn't been disturbed for, adding gravel or concrete or messing with that stuff. I mean, it's maybe as close as we're going to get to what was farm ground 100 years ago. So I think the important thing is to develop all of these things with when we do have land use plans in place, which we do for the secondary campus, that this then become a critical element of that land use plan, and it be done right in the first place, as opposed to doing something to have to rip it up a couple years later and move it, because that's a whole nother story. And I recognize the issue of maintenance. I mean, we had at Thomas Paine, I haven't driven to the backside of Thomas Paine in a long time. So I don't know about the prairie, but we used to have a very extensive prairie restoration project back there, including prairie burns and stuff like that. And once again, as Jennifer was talking about, it was person-centric, in that wasn't it Mr. Zimmerman? But once that teacher retired, then then it became a problem of trying to keep that looking, keep it as an educational tool and device that it was supposed to be.
The guy that originally started that prairie back there has reached out and has expressed some interest in doing another burn on it. Park District has also looked into it. We have a couple, wish I could remember the names. I don't have anything in front of me here.
It's Zimmerman, isn't it? Wasn't it Mr. Zimmerman?
I think was that the teacher?
Yes.
Yeah, this is a professor from former professor from the UBI that originally started it. And I guess they found, the Park District found a couple kind of rare prairie plants in there. I don't remember I'm sorry, I can't remember what they are, but I'm trying to think.
There was some work restoring it back to natural prairie.
Yeah, so we're hoping to get it burned yet this spring, possibly. If not next year, we'll do one. But yeah, there's a lot of land back there for garden. Be nice to have.
Well, and I wanted to mention Tori brought up her daughter's interest in animals, that bees might be a possibility. There's a lot you can learn about pollination and how important that is for crops. I don't know about any other animals. Maybe we'll try fruits first, but there's a lot that can be incorporated. And I do also want to just point out that we feel like, and we need more student involvement. I hope the social media campaign will help with that, and also working with the teachers and having them work with their students. In the meeting that we had last week about the Urbana High School, the gardens across the street from the high school, we have a student who's on our steering committee who said, you know, one way, because we were talking about how to reach more students, and he said, you know, what if this taking care of the gardens or touring the gardens, learning about the gardens at the high school were part of every freshman biology class? It would hit every single student then. I thought, oh my gosh, that's exactly right. So that was just one example of, you know, the way students are thinking about this and engaged and are thinking about from inside the classroom, you know, where this can go, whether it's culinary arts or biology or environmental science. So if you have ideas of how better to reach the students, we'd really appreciate it as well.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy and Valerie. This is really for bringing this opportunity to our school district. I noticed on the Farm to School census website that I think was part of your press release that it looked like Illinois was one of a very small number of states nationwide that had low participation in farm to school. I mean, most of the other states were doing it much more broadly than we are in Illinois. So thanks for all the hard work to, you know, bring this opportunity to us. I'm glad to see Arbor Management on your steering committee too, because I know when we visited the Ready School over in Champaign that they, for a long time, maybe they still do, I just haven't visited there for a couple of years, would use their prosperity gardens to grow food for their cafeteria. And we would routinely hear from the director and teachers there that once the students started growing the food and serving them in their cafeteria, the kids were much more interested in the foods that were being served.
Yeah.
Now that's a much smaller school, about 200 compared to, you know, our larger schools, but it sounds like, if I'm hearing you right, that it's possible for us to do something on that scale in maybe one of our smaller elementary schools, or, you know, that Arbor Management doesn't need to have a uniform rollout of food. It has to be like on everybody's menu, or it can't happen at all. It sounds like we can kind of roll it out in a small way and then scale up, you know, district wide when that seems desirable.
Well,
Yeah, I think
that's part of this planning process.
Yeah.
Okay, to see.
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. A lot of this reminds me of, and Jennifer, you might remember this, we used to have some fruit and vegetable grants in past years at both King and Dr. Williams. And it was kind of outside the food service program, but it was a way to basically introduce vegetables and fruits to kids that they had never seen before. The only difference is they weren't growing them. They weren't growing them locally. They were going to the grocery store and buying it and bringing food in, but it was a way to get kids, you know, to see things and try things that maybe they would have never tried before. So, and it was educating them on the different types of fruits and vegetables. So I see a lot of this being very similar to that, except the difference is we're going to be bringing fruits and vegetables from locally grown farms around here into the schools. So it could be completely over and above and something in addition to whatever they're serving at lunch or at breakfast. So I think they can work together. And I think USDA and ISBE really supports this type of project as well. So we just need to be able to work around all the commodities and things that we're required to do as well with USDA, that, you know, lots of different requirements that they have for this. So we'll have to work around all that, but I think it's doable.
Can I just ask, is this a year-to-year grant, or are we promised some money for some time to come?
So the planning grant is a 12-month grant. So that will be completed end of next summer. And then the turnkey grant, which would be specifically for installation of grow spaces, edible grow spaces at the schools, would be summer of 21 to summer of 22. And our hope is that we would have funding through the implementation process for 3 to 5 years for USDA. But all of this is to say, I don't think the USDA Farm to School grant is the only source of funding. I think once we have the Farm to School Action Plan, that different community partners can be seeking funds for different parts of this work. And I also know Champaign-Urbana School Foundation, can support teachers directly for the needs that they have in the classroom, and potentially add garden space to the schools through their grants program. So, I mean, we definitely want to stay on this project and be funded to continue convening both the planning and the implementation. But I think once the Farm School Action Plan is done, that's really a community work plan that can be used to fund, the different pieces that are of interest in the district.
Great, thank you both very much. Sounds really exciting.
Great, thank you very much.
I want to piggyback what everybody else has said. First of all, I'm so delighted you both. Thank you for coming. And I was so excited when Carol and Jennifer showed us this presentation a couple weeks ago, because I've been dreaming about something like this for years too. And I've been asked by teachers and I've been asked by parents, what are you guys going to do with all that land by the high school? Can we have a farm? Can we have this? Can we have that? And I've said, well, we'll see what happens. So it's finally here, and that's thrilling to me. And you'd mentioned about community partners, and I saw on your list of people in the steering committee that you have 2 people from the extension office, from the SNAP program, and from the small farms. But have you been able to, or have you considered talking to our Champaign County 4-H coordinators, our youth coordinator? Because I don't want to toot too much the horn of 4-H, but our family was graduate 4-H alums, and there are so many opportunities for kids involving farming or any sort of project, from building to maintaining to everything that to do with outdoors, that could benefit the district and benefit the 4-H program. There'd probably be grants involved. I know there have been grants involved in the past, because our club, our local Urbana club, was able to work at Yankee Ridge for a little while on the farm there and help keep it, the upkeep of it. And that was provided for with some grant money from 4-H. But I'm just thinking in my head of all the different ways that it could be brought into the district for all ages of kids. And I think it was 2 years ago. Well, we didn't go to the conference in Chicago last year. So it was the year before, when the III conference for school boards and school administrators was in Chicago. And I actually sat down and met at a roundtable discussion with the Champaign County 4-H coordinators. And they were asking me back then, is there ways we can get involved with your school district and get more kids from the Urbana schools and the Champaign schools involved in 4-H programs? And I have always kept it in the back of my head for when there be an opportunity to talk about it. So if there's any way we could incorporate that into this, I think it would be a win-win for everyone. And even down to talking about being able to maintain the gardens and any projects over the summer months, and when kids aren't there, the clubs are there to work year round, and then they would be able to incorporate their projects into going to the county fair and the state fair with what they grew or what they raised or whatever. And so, yeah, it would be wonderful if we could somehow reach out to them and see if they were interested in working with us in some way.
That's a great suggestion. I have marked it down. I appreciate it.
Tell them I sent you.
Well,
and one last plug, you said bees. If there's ever an interest for chickens, please put me down as a vote for yes, because I think that there are also a lot of people in Urbana who would be delighted to raise chickens. No roosters, but the eggs and the animal husbandry, they're a very kid-friendly animal to raise. So if that's something that anybody had interest in, that would be wonderful to start too.
I would love to see that happen.
Well, thank you again. I mean, I'm sure I'll think of a million questions later on, but I am just so thrilled to see this program finally taking off, and just keep us posted and come back and give us updates all the time. And we'd love to hear from all the community members with their ideas too. So thank you again.
Our pleasure.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much. Appreciate the support. I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you
much.
Well, if nobody else has any more questions, I will move us on. Thank you again for that portion of our meeting. Sorry guys, just hang on for a second. I gotta pull this up on my computer. I had to switch windows here for my, where did it go? The agenda. Okay, sorry. Well, we're finished now talking about Solagratia, so that's great. Now we're on to 10.2, and Dr. Ivory Tatum and Kim Norton are going to be giving us an update on the in-person learning so far.
Sure, and Kim's going to share mostly, but I did just want to let the board know, we have had a few inquiries from parents, mostly elementary, asking us about fourth quarter in-person learning, and you may have had some people reach out to you as well. We have talked a little bit about the fact that, we're starting to plan for fourth quarter, now that we can have more students back in the building, summer and fall. So we have, Kim and I just this afternoon, we're with our secondary planning teams. We have an elementary planning team, early childhood planning team, and all of those groups are looking at, just some of the learning loss, some of the needs, some of the intervention and supports that we can put back in place. How much can we support students, and what are we able to do? So our focus right now is fourth quarter, and then we're going to expand those conversations more widely to talk about moving into the summer and then moving into the fall. So tonight, Kim is going to specifically share our thoughts about fourth quarter learning. So I'll turn it over to Kim.
Yeah, as Dr. Ivory Tatum said, our teams, we've been meeting with them each week, and then they've been meeting at their school sites as well. UECS and elementary are exploring several options of ways to have more students in person. And then there's several key dates that I'll mention as well. Admin is determining how many spaces are available in each classroom. And teachers and admin are also identifying students that aren't attending who were originally invited to attend in person, and also who are a high priority that need to be in person. UECS is reaching out to families this week. And then on Friday, we will be sending out surveys to all of our elementary families to determine if there's interest for their students coming in person. And then the schools will be reaching out and working with them to determine classrooms that have space. We just have a couple classrooms across the district for elementary that are capped right now. Some that are close, and when I say capped, meaning at that 10 or so per classroom, but we definitely want to have more students in person. So our survey will go out, as I mentioned, this Friday, and then it's really important that our families complete that right away. We want those completed and to get a commitment by March 1st. And the reason why that's so important is because we want to be able to work with First Student from March 2nd through 12th on transportation and make sure that we get all of that in place before spring break. And then following spring break, March 22nd, we would have a transition because we've had some students that haven't been in person since March. And so we would have our new students come in and gradually transition our students in. And then the week following, we would have our other students come in as well. And we're still waiting to see with state assessments. Right now, we don't have a determination on if we'll be granted a waiver. Our state superintendent did apply for that, but we're waiting to see. So we're tentatively planning for that as well. So the main thing that we're doing in all of our buildings, elementary and secondary too, is really looking to see which students need some other layers of support and other ways that we can reach out. And even if we have students that attend for longer periods during the day. And then our principals are also working with staff to explore summer options. And we really need to determine which staff are willing to commit further at this time beyond fourth quarter as well. So again, those key dates, surveys will go out this Friday, and then we'll need commitments by March 1st. So we can be working with First Student March 2nd through 12th to be ready to go for additional students following spring break.
And we'll share all those, the links and the timeline. And on Friday, I'll share that out through the superintendent update. Families have gotten used to receiving that information on Friday. So it is a nice way, to make sure that they know to look for it then. but we'll be sharing all that out as well. And I know we're also working with middle school and high school. I mentioned they are in the planning stages and coming up with some really creative ideas for how they can incorporate more students into the school day safely. And they both are reaching out, both buildings are reaching out and trying to engage more interest as well as get more commitment from our middle school and high school students to be back in person.
So I know we've had the vaccine clinics at school, and the federal health groups are coming out indicating that schools are some of the safest places to be for children and adults in terms of, from a COVID viewpoint, especially if the teaching, if the direct contact staff, not just teachers, but other administrators and so forth that have direct contact with the kids are moving forward with the vaccinations. Is this going to allow us to be more open, allowing more kids to come to the building than what we thought maybe 6 months ago was possible?
So at elementary and early childhood, yes. So we are at the point at those levels. We'll survey, as Kim said, we'll survey families again. Any families that indicate they want to return, we're going to try to work with them to make sure we have enough space for them to attend. Middle school and high school is a little different because we still have those caps of the 50. We're still only allowed to have 50 students in a given space through the Restore Illinois plan. So until that guideline is lifted, and that, we're kind of tied to that through Illinois Department of Public Health and CUPHD, lunch feeding students is a near impossibility for us to be able to do that at the middle school and high school until we are able to have more students in one space. So that being said, John, I think we're trying to open as widely as we can for fourth quarter. I don't know that we'll be able to do a full hybrid model where we have, 600 students at the high school walking around on any given day. And that is partially because we would not be able to feed them. We have, our cafeteria space is limited. We don't have multiple lunchrooms, and we could try to spread students out as much as we can, but it would be extremely difficult to do and provide spaces for the students to learn, and the turnaround time needed to have students eating and then sanitizing and cleaning behind them. So right now at the middle school and high school, until we have a higher limit in terms of large gathering spaces, we won't be able to do like a full hybrid. Now, that being said, I think both buildings are really targeting students. They're working, when we met with them today, they have high priority students on their lists. Parents that are reaching out and saying, I really need my student to be there. I think we're, wanting to work with those families as much as we can. But that is one of, I think, our biggest barriers right now to bringing back larger groups into those two spaces is the lunch. So all of our meals right now are grab and go. So the students get their meal bags, like at the high school at 1 o'clock they leave and they take meals with them when they leave. So, and at the middle school, because those students are there most of the day, because their synchronous learning is at the end of the day, we have worked out a plan where they can have meals served at the middle school so they eat. And we're utilizing basically every space that we can to allow the students to have a separate eating space and a separate workspace. So they're not eating in the same spaces that they're going and having their learning activities. So that has tied our hands a little bit, but like you say, hopefully we're hoping, as things continue to level out across the state, our positivity rate here has been less than 4% for days and days now, that as we see that happen in other places, maybe the Restore Illinois plan, will have some mitigations lessened in that area for us. So, but
That's-
until
I
that
just
happens.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that we as a district are ready when we're allowed
Oh.
to move forward, because, and we can do it, you know, we can pivot. I think that's the big word in
That's
COVID.
our word, yes.
And we can pivot quickly, because I am concerned that students with a great deal of support at home are doing better than students that don't have a great deal of support at home. And it's not the fault of the parents. It's just a situation of what it is.
Sure.
From an equity viewpoint, we need to be ready to get our students back, our learners back in the classrooms as soon as we can.
No, I agree with that, and we will be ready to pivot. I do want to acknowledge the creative ideas we've heard at the middle school and high school. Like the high school right now is surveying students and parents to find out, like you said, those students that are not engaging or don't have the support, why have they not come back? Because they've been invited back, but they're maybe not coming back. And so the high school is really trying to work with each family to find out why. Some of those students are working. You know, once the pandemic hit, a lot of I see our high school students out working all over the community. They have jobs. So that is one reason why they haven't been logging in. Some are taking care of their siblings during the day so parents can work. So we've been kind of reaching out to find out where are those high need students and what can we do to help remediate their situation so they can attend. They've even started talking about some afternoon classes. Today they were talking about, what do they call it, the night shift or something like that, that they're, the high school is looking at, trying to, you know, those students who still have to work, how can we get them some credit recovery and get them back some of the needs, academic needs that they have if they can't Zoom in at the specific time that we've set for their Zoom classes. So I think the teams are being really creative. They're thinking outside the box, trying to come up with all kinds of things that we can do fourth quarter, really to individualize supports. Like you said, there are a large group of our students that are doing just fine remotely, but then there's another group that we've reached out to them, but they still have not returned in person, and we're trying to find out why.
Yeah, I think there's academic issues, and there's also, I think, NBC, for instance, is doing a big series in their news programs about the mental health, the damages to mental health that are coming about because of lack of school. And so I think there's all kinds of reasons why we need to be ready to go as soon as we can.
And Kim, I know her team has done a great job of talking about the social emotional needs of the students with you can share that, Kim. Go ahead.
Yeah, our team has our CIA, our curriculum instruction assessment and PD team. Yeah, heavy emphasis on social emotional learning. But I can also say that I participated in staff development at the high school, led by the administrative team, and it's really the best that I've ever seen. Brave conversations, you know, awkward pause, but individuals that are pouring themselves out to others in, you know, large spaces, and you know, it's just what on all the things that we can do to better serve our students, and you know, just reforming the way that that social emotional learning is conducted in the classroom, and just realizing that it's not isolated and not something that we do one day a week, or that it's only our social workers. But I've been really proud of our staff, just at how they've approached this, and that they realize they still have much more to learn too. But yeah, I think that, you know, they're more equipped now for, as you mentioned, John, some of the challenges that are ahead.
Any other question? Oh, sorry.
Any other questions?
Yeah, sorry, I thought my computer went out for a second there.
Okay. So we will continue to keep you posted. There'll be more to come. We'll continue as we have these in-person learning updates scheduled periodically as we have new news develop. I know several of you have emailed me about making sure that we are thinking outside the box related to COVID learning loss and what are some of the things that we're doing. So as we plan some of these initiatives and supports, we'll make sure we come back and keep you guys apprised of them. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay, moving on with our agenda, we're moving on to 11.0 action items. And let me see, this is everything on here is start with this consent. Starting with our minutes, 11.1, we have the January 19th business meeting and the February 2nd study session packet. We also have for 11.2 bills and checks. We have in the amount of, starting with the Ed Fund bills in the amount of $876,000. O&M fund bills in the amount of $274,000. Bond and interest fund bills in the amount of $1,100. Transportation fund bills in the amount of $22,000. Working cash bonds, $768. Tort, $27,000. Life safety levy, $203. Payroll, salary, and benefits in the amount of $4.1 million, and the Urbana adult education in the amount of $104,000. And 11.3, we have approval of various personnel items on our list. 11.4, interrupt me, anybody, if you need a question about something. 11.4 is interfund loans, which will be required to cover the operating costs from the district till the next meeting, going from the working cash fund to the O&M balanced in the amount of $950,000. Let me see, administrative personnel items. I don't know if we need any mention on that. 11.5. No, okay, and 11.6, the resolution authorizing and directing the sale or disposal of personal property. I believe we have some weeding books from the King Library and a defunct chainsaw. And also 11.7, we have the intergovernmental agreement between Cunningham Township Supervisor's Office. Did we need to stop and talk about that at all anymore? Did anybody have any last questions about that before we move ahead?
I did want to let the board know we did add the, or Todd was going to do that. Go ahead, Todd.
Just very briefly, we did listen to what the board had to say at the last meeting, added language stating that we provide yearly reports, annual reports language defining the conditions under which the agreement might be modified or terminated, and also language stating that the agreement will end in 3 years in June 2024, absent any action by the respective boards.
Okay, thank you, Todd.
And I did want to also add, it was approved unanimously at the city council meeting this past Monday, or last Monday.
Okay. So I'll keep moving ahead unless anybody has any questions about that before we, okay. Next up, we have the district calendar approval from Kim Norton, which we discussed briefly at the last meeting for 2021-2022. I don't know if you want to ask questions now or at the end of everything, if there's anybody that's got anything they want to discuss. Did you have anything else to add, Kim?
Not that I can think of. I think we covered it last time, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Then we've got the last one on the consent was for the resolution authorizing the appointment of Michelle Hornicle as the IMRF authorized agent for our school district. So I guess first we can put a motion on the table to approve, and then we could ask any questions then. Do I have a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Any last questions or discussion needed on any items before we vote? Okay, seeing none, then we'll take a roll call, please, Ruth Ann.
Member Carter,
Yes.
Member Demmett,
Yes.
Member Patton,
Yes.
Member Pulaski,
Yes.
Member Fisher votes yes, Vice President Exum,
Yes.
and President Hall.
Yes, motion passes. Next up, we have an action item for gifts, but there are no gifts. So that was 12.0 of our agenda. So in the events that we have no gifts, which it doesn't always happen to us, is there anything that we need to even put a motion for to vote on? I guess we just keep moving ahead. All right. 13.0 on the agenda is a call for future special or executive meetings. I don't believe we have any scheduled, do we? For some reason, I had tomorrow in my mind, but I don't know why I thought that. We don't have anything.
No, no special meetings.
Okay, great. Okay, then next up, we have our superintendent's report. I'll let you take it away.
All right. We have a short one today. So, oops, I'm not sharing. Do that. Okay. Moving up here. All right. So our Winter Guard, they have been having a fantastic season virtually. So they are off to the state finals. I know this is the same picture we had last time, but they did do a different routine. Their routine, waving through a window, and Once Upon a Dream, Lana Del Rey placed second. And Evan Hansen won first place. So we had some individual recognitions. And then as a team, they're moving forward to state. So congratulations to UHS Winter Guard. They're doing a fantastic job. We will look forward to hearing the results of that on Saturday, March 13th is when that will happen. I also wanted to point out and give some congratulations to our PD team, our teachers, our presenters. I don't know if any board members joined in on Friday for Winter Institute, but our keynote speaker, Dr. Mabry, was fantastic. You know, he shared his personal story and his journey. I think it was very culturally relevant for our staff. We had him do a couple of breakout sessions. He met with some students from the Neighborhood Connection Center, and some other students in our community joined in on a session with him. So it was just great to have somebody so connected to youth who can really speak their language, and really he's walked in a lot of their shoes. And I think he did a fabulous job of relaying to our staff that student voice is important, and we need to leverage the student voice, but in a culturally relevant way. So it was a great day. So many, I think we had over 100 plus, is that right, Kim, of our own people who presented. We had other really great outside breakout sessions and breakout presenters from the university, and pretty much all over. I need to give an exceptional shout out to Miss Yvonne Smith, who coordinated everything. We were a little worried about the virtual piece of this. Of course, you know, the Winter Institute is something we look forward to as a district every year. Yvonne did a fabulous job. Our theme was stronger from a distance, stronger together from a distance, and we were distant, and we all learned virtually. And the setup, it was just seamless. The organization, the Google site that she set up. So I can't give her enough kudos, and her team, of course, you know, nobody can do it by themselves, but she provided a lot of really great leadership to the effort, and I know our staff really appreciated it. So just wanted to point that out. And I'm not going to show you the whole video because it's about 9 minutes long, but today we've seen videos from Parker Sands before. We all know Parker from the middle school, and he shared one of his videos today, and it is a really special thank you to CU healthcare workers from Urbana Middle School under the leadership of Parker. I'm going to show you just a few minutes, not a few minutes, but a few seconds of it. I've got it ready back here, and we will be sharing this widely, you know, pushing it out to WCIA, News Gazette. It is it's just really great. So I'm going to just share a little bit of it here.
On behalf of Urbana Middle School students and staff, we all want to thank you for your dedication, bravery, and kindness that you've shown throughout this pandemic. Your daily efforts have literally saved lives. Thank you, y gracias.
Hello, I would just like to say thank you all so much for all that you do. You are helping all of us through this pandemic by risking your life. And I just want to say thank you. Like, my uncle got COVID and you helped him through it. You healthcare workers got my uncle through COVID and possibly saved his life. So I just want to say thank you.
So that young man is a great example of what you have to look forward to when you watch the rest of the video. It is about 17 minutes long, so it's too long for us to show right now. But I will share the link with board members after our meeting tonight, so you can watch it in its entirety. It is a tearjerker. It's just really nice to watch. And then we'll make sure that it is shared widely in our community as well. So I just want to thank Parker and thank Urbana Middle School, the staff and the students for their thanking our healthcare workers, because Tyler's right. We wouldn't be where we are in our community today and healthy and well without them. So that is it for me. That is it for that. We do have a couple FOIAs. So Illinois Retired Teachers Association, name and email addresses of any certified staff who are retiring this year. Smart Procure, purchase order numbers, purchase orders not used, purchase order dates, line item details, line item quantities, line item prices, vendor IDs, name, address, and contact persons. Michelle Nelson, USD 116 plan for RTI, or whatever name is used by 116 as a requirement under 23.3 admin code part 226. So those have all been fulfilled.
Okay, thank you. Board reports. Do we have any board members who have reports to give?
I have one. I just wanted to say that I wanted to congratulate the drama department on the Laramie project. It's difficult to come up with a drama presentation that can be done. And they've come up with now 2 in a row that have been able to be done, maintaining all the social distancing and all the security stuff, and found the Laramie project quite moving. The actors did a great job. And I've been meaning to talk about this for a while, mention it. And I very much enjoy Jay Simpson's column in the News Gazette. And I think we need to consider ourselves fortunate to have him as part of USD 116 staff and coaching staff as well as his other duties. And I just want to thank him for the voice that he provides to the community.
Thanks, John. Any other board members? Okay, well, I think that is it for the public portion of our meeting. So I would need a motion for us to go into closed session, I believe is what we're going to do. Does anybody need to take a quick break before we reconvene then? First, do I have a motion to go into closed session?
You need to read the whole.
Yes, you're right. You're right, I do. Thank you, John.
Can I interrupt for just a second?
You bet.
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
No, it's okay. All of a sudden it looked like the recording button wasn't on. I can
it's up
see
there.
I can see it on now. It must just
Okay.
be something on my screen.
Okay. Thank you. Good. I'm glad you noticed in case it had gone out. Okay, I need a motion for us to go into closed session for the purpose of litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular district has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the district finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the closed meeting minutes. And the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Member Carter,
Thumbs up.
Yes,
Okay.
sorry.
Member Demmett,
Yes.
Member Patton,
Yes.
Member Pulaski.
Yes.
Member Fisher votes yes, Vice President Exum,
Yes.
and President Hall.
Yes, we are now moving into closed session, and that concludes the public portion of our meeting tonight.